How we approach the Bible determines what we really get out of it. Often we can approach it like it's instructions or something really good to help us get through the day or give us encouragement. But if our heart really desires to seek transformation and be changed by God, made into His image more, verses like 15 through 18 are going to hit like a ton of bricks. And to be honest, they're probably some of the hardest that I've ever had to swallow.
It is true that some preach Christ out of envy and rivalry, but others out of goodwill. The latter do so out of love, knowing that I am put here for the defense of the gospel. The former preach Christ out of selfish ambition, not sincerely, supposing that they can stir up trouble for me while I am in chains. But what does it matter? The important thing is that in every way, whether from false motives or true, Christ is preached. And because of this I rejoice, yes, and I will continue to rejoice.
Have you ever had someone who claims to be a follower of Jesus wrong you? Or you found yourself in conflict with another believer, feeling like their actions don't match what they preach? And if so, then you and Paul can certainly relate. In these verses, it's clear that there were other believers causing trouble for Paul. Whatever the trouble may be, Paul indicates that it was out of rivalry and envy. It wasn't from their dislike of the gospel. In fact, these were people that were actually preaching the gospel as well, but their actions didn't match their words. Some of this just sounds too familiar. In fact, I think everyone kind of knows about the accusation of Christians being hypocrites. And we've probably seen people not living as they preach. And we ourselves are probably guilty of doing it too. But the issue with envy and rivalry is much deeper than just jealousy. Envy is a characteristic of depravity. It's not just this, I want what others have. It reveals what's going on the inside, this sense of emptiness that causes hatred when we see other people's success. Think to the story of Cain and Abel. Both were asked by God to give gifts of sacrifice to Him. Both were given specific instructions. And when Cain was corrected, instead of filling the void of emptiness that he had by obeying God, he looked to his brother and saw success and became filled with hatred. What should be unity causes division. So that means rivalry is a characteristic of selfish ambition and vanity, the inability to see what we're about to do and the selfish ambition that tells us not to stop. But rivalry itself can be a vice. It's a vicious cycle that can make us feel like we're satisfied, but we have to continue to repeat it in order to be fulfilled. Cain's emptiness led him to devalue his brother and not see him as the image of Christ, but instead something in the way of him feeling satisfied. And in that, the sacrifice that God asked for wasn't enough for Cain, and he made his own with the blood of his brother. Have you ever noticed that we desire to have common enemies? That this somehow, when we feel like someone else agrees with us of who has wronged us, somehow validates our feelings. It gives us almost permission then to hate someone else who is in the image of God. Perhaps you can think of someone that's done this to you, a fellow believer who has hurt you in a way that is not honoring to God. It would make sense that this would hurt us. Even more so, it would offend us to see them act out Christian fellowship with other people when they deny it with us. A part of us inside would feel this strip because it's not just a loss of fellowship with them, but it's the denial of fellowship of the body. Wouldn't it be right to focus in on this injustice and make it right? Yet Paul's response to this is surprising. For Paul, he was not only willing to give up his freedom for Christ, but he was also willing to give up his justice. These hypocrites, these fellow believers, They caused Paul pain. And his response to that was, so what? It's best to warn you that this injustice can be all-consuming, that the longer that we desire to see this wrong rectified, the further it thickens our self-righteousness. But worse so, it immobilizes us. This crusade becomes a life of its own and in the end takes over our very lives. We're not condoning the behavior. In fact, Paul is very clear that it's wrong. But Paul knew he was not in control of how others would behave. Allowing himself to be all consumed didn't change his circumstances. So instead of allowing a chest cavity to be opened up, Paul focused in on what actually gave him worth. Paul saw Christ as the forefront and believed that he could work through all things. Just look at what Christ did with Paul himself. He had his own story as a testimony to what Jesus can do with broken people. The hypocrite's story isn't over yet. Whether it's someone that's hurt you or you have hurt someone else, your story, their story isn't over yet. And the most important thing is that Jesus Christ is declared King. And so whether it's from false motives or true, what does it matter? I believe in a God who has my back. I believe in a God who can redeem me and my brokenness. Allow Jesus to transform our minds and see that He gives us our worth. And when we feel wronged or someone has hurt us or has tried to destroy our reputation, our response, like Paul's, should be, so what?